Zara was only 10 years old when she joined the new school. She didn't know anyone, and she didn't speak much. She just sat quietly in class, always on time, always polite. Her skin was dark, her eyes full of curiosity, and her hair, her beautiful, long, curly hair, was her pride. Every morning her mother helped her tie it neatly with care. Zara loved her hair. It made her feel strong like her grandmother, who used to tell her stories about queens in Africa. But at school, things were different. The other kids would whisper when she walked by. "Why is her hair so big? Looks like a bird's nest. Why doesn't she straighten it?" Zara heard it all. But she didn't react. She kept her head down, focused on her books, hoping the teasing would stop. Then there was Ms. Karen, the teacher. She was strict and always looked unhappy. She never smiled at Zara. Instead, she often stared at her hair with disapproval. "Zara, your hair is too messy again," Ms. Karen would say loud enough for the whole class to hear. "Don't you have a brush at home? This is not how we come to school. It's unclean." Zara felt ashamed. She would go to the restroom and try to fix her hair, even though there was nothing wrong with it. She didn't tell her mom. She didn't want to make things worse. Weeks passed. Zara kept quit, but Miss Karen didn't stop. Then came Monday morning. It was cold. Zara walked slowly to class, her hoodie over her head. She took her seat quietly, like always, but something felt strange. Miss Karen kept looking at her with a serious face. After the first lesson, Miss Karen stood up. Her voice was louder than usual. "Zara, stand up and come here." Zara froze. The classroom went quiet. Everyone looked at her. Some students giggled. Others looked confused. Zara stood up slowly and walked to the front of the class. Ms. Karen pointed to her. "Hair, this is not school appropriate," she said. "You've been warned enough. You broke the rules again." Zara's hands began to shake. I tied it neatly today," she said in a soft voice. "I didn't break any rules." Ms. Karen didn't listen. She opened her desk drawer and pulled something out. Scissors. The class gasped. Zara's eyes widened. "Today," Miss Karen said, holding up the scissors, "we are going to show everyone what happens when students don't follow the rules." Zara took a step back. "Please." "Nope." But Miss Karen didn't stop. "Be quiet and stand still. You need to learn." Some students looked away. One boy took out his tablet quietly and pressed the record button. Zara stood frozen. She didn't understand why this was happening. She hadn't done anything wrong. Her hair was clean. It was tied. Why was she being punished? She felt everyone's eyes on her. Miss Karen raised the scissors near her head. "Let this be a lesson," she said. Zara closed her eyes. Cut. The sound of scissors slicing through her curls filled the room. A piece of her braid fell to the ground. Another. Cut. Then another. Zara couldn't move. She felt the cold air touch the back of her head. Her hair, the one thing that made her feel proud, was falling to the floor. The room stayed silent. No one spoke. Even the gigglers were quiet now. When it was over, Zara stood there, shaking. Ms. Karen looked pleased. "Now you look clean," she said. Zara picked up her fallen braids from the floor with trembling hands. She walked back to her seat, holding back tears. No one laughed now, everyone looked down. At the end of the day, Zara didn't wait. She rushed out before anyone could talk to her. She walked home in silence, her hood over her head. When she got home, her mom, Serena, was in the kitchen. She turned and smiled at Zara, but the smile disappeared the moment she saw her. Serena dropped the spoon in her hand. "Zara, what happened to your hair?" Zara didn't speak. She just stood there, still holding the cut braids. Serena rushed over and knelt in front of her. "Who did this to you?" she asked, her voice shaking. Zara looked at her mother with tear-filled eyes. "My teacher. She said it was messy. And she cut it." Serena's expression changed, from confusion to heartbreak to something cold and dangerous. She stood up, walked over to her phone, and picked it up. She didn't say a word. Her hands were steady now. She opened her contact list and tapped a name. Serena stood in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear. Her eyes stayed locked on Zara, who sat silently at the table, her cut braids lying beside her like broken pieces of her heart. The phone connected. "Lisa speaking," came the voice on the other end. Serena's voice was cold and steady. "Lisa, it's happened. A teacher cut my daughter's hair. In class, in front of everyone." There was a pause. Then Lisa's voice sharpened. "She what?" Serena looked down at Zara. The little girl's eyes were empty, her head slightly lowered. Her curls were uneven now, choppy and torn. "I want to go to the school," Serena said. "Tomorrow morning." "I'll be there," Lisa replied. "And bring Zara. They won't get away with this." That night, Serena sat on Zara's bed. She gently brushed what was left of her daughter's hair, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You are beautiful, baby," she whispered. "No one can take that from you." Zara didn't say much, she just nodded. But deep inside, something had changed. Something had broken. The next morning, Serena dressed in a black coat. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet fire. Zara walked beside her, holding her hand. She wore a cap over her uneven hair. They reached the school building. Lisa, the civil rights lawyer, was already waiting by the gate, holding a folder in her hand. "You ready?" Lisa asked. Serena gave a small nod. "Let's go." Inside the school, kids moved through the halls. Some stopped and stared. A few whispered. Everyone had seen the video, the one the student secretly recorded. It had already started to spread. Ms. Karen didn't know yet. In the office, the school secretary looked up as Serena and Lisa entered. "We're here to speak to the principal," Serena said firmly. The secretary blinked. "Do you have an appointment?" Lisa stepped forward, flashing a legal badge. "She'll want to see us." Moments later, they were sitting in front of Principal Edwards. He looked nervous the moment Lisa introduced herself. "What exactly happened here?" Lisa asked calmly. The principal sighed. "There was an incident with one of our teachers, Ms. Karen. She claims there was a hygiene violation." Lisa opened her folder. "We have a video. A 10-year-old girl stood quietly while her hair was forcibly cut in front of the entire class. That's not a hygiene issue. That's assault. Serena leaned forward. That girl is my daughter. Zara sat beside her mother, still silent. The principal swallowed. I wasn't aware a video existed. Lisa slid a USB across the desk. Now you are. Principal Edwards took it, his hands shaking. I need to speak with Ms. Karen, he said quickly. Serena's voice was sharp. No, she needs to speak to me. Meanwhile, in the classroom, Ms. Karen stood at the front of her class like every day, teaching math. But students were distracted. They whispered to each other, some hiding their phones under the desk. One brave student raised their hand. Ms. Karen, is it true you're going to jail? She froze. What? She snapped. Another kid whispered loudly. They say the mom's a lawyer or something. She's in the school right now. Ms. Karen's hands trembled. At that moment, the door opened. Principal Edwards stepped in. His face was pale. Ms. Karen, we need to speak. Now. Ms. Karen sat stiffly in the principal's office. Her face looked calm on the outside, but her hands shook slightly in her lap. Across from her sat Serena, her jaw tight with anger. Next to her was Lisa, calm but firm, holding the folder of evidence. And sitting quietly between them, eyes lowered, was little Zara, her hair hidden under a soft purple cap. Principal Edwards sat at his desk, clearly uncomfortable. He spoke carefully. Miss Karen, the reason we're all here today is very serious. There's a video taken by a student. Miss Karen raised her eyebrows. A video? Lisa nodded and leaned forward. The full incident. We have the moment. Where you humiliate a 10-year-old child in front of the entire classroom. You raised scissors to her head without consent. You called her hair wild and said she needed to be made an example of. Miss Karen tried to laugh. That's being taken out of context. I was trying to teach discipline. Serena slammed her hand on the desk. You shamed my daughter. You cut her hair while the whole class watched. That's not discipline. That's abuse. Flashback. The camera that caught everything earlier that day, the student who recorded the video, Jalen, was sitting in his room. He looked nervous but proud. His phone shook in his hands as he uploaded the video online. He had never meant to be a hero, but when he saw what Ms. Karen did to Zara, something inside him told him it was wrong. Very wrong. I couldn't just sit there, he whispered to himself. The video went viral overnight. Thousands of comments. People calling the teacher cruel, demanding justice. And now, the video was playing in the principal's office. Ms. Karen watched herself on screen. Her own voice echoed through the speakers. This is what happens when rules are broken. Sit still, Zara. This is for your own good. The sound of scissors, the sound of gasps. Zara sat still on screen, her little shoulders shaking as she held in tears. The breaking point, Serena stared at the video, her hands clenched into fists. Zara didn't look up. She just listened. Lisa turned to the principal. What actions will the school be taking? Principal Edwards looked at Ms. Karen, then at the video again. There's no excuse for this, he said. Ms. Karen, You're suspended immediately. Pending investigation. You're not to enter this building again until the board decides what happens next. Miss Karen stood up quickly. You're just believing them? This is over hair, over... Lisa stood too, her voice firm. No, this is over power, and what you did with it. Outside the office, as they left the room, Serena held Zara's hand tightly. Other teachers stared from their classrooms. Some looked shocked, others avoided eye contact. But one young black teacher, Ms. Yara, came forward quietly. She bent down to Zara and smiled softly. I'm so sorry for what happened to you. You are strong, and your hair is beautiful. Zara looked up at her and gave a small smile. It was the first one in days. The next morning, Serena and Zara sat at home watching the news. The reporter's voice was serious. A video of a teacher shaving a young girl's head at Lincoln Elementary has gone viral. Parents and community members have gathered outside the school to protest. The school board has promised a full investigation. Zara clutched her mother's hand tightly. She still felt shy, but also a little brave. Serena wiped a tear and smiled softly. See, Zara, people care. You are not alone. Suddenly the phone rang. It was Ms. Yara, the young teacher who had comforted Zara. I want to help, Ms. Yara said kindly. The school is not safe for Zara right now. I can help you with homeschooling until things settle. Serena nodded gratefully. Thank you. That means so much. At school, tension grows at Lincoln Elementary. Things were not calm. Some teachers whispered behind closed doors. Miss Karen was angry and furious, trying to find ways to defend herself. But many students and parents showed support for Zara. One parent held a handmade sign, "Protect our children from bullying." The principal met with the school board. They knew this story was bigger than just one classroom, a public statement. Serena was invited to speak at a community meeting. She stood before a crowd of worried parents and reporters. My daughter did. Nothing wrong. She is a bright, beautiful girl. But what happened to her is wrong. No child should ever be humiliated like that. Tears filled the eyes of many in the audience. Serena continued, We need to teach kindness, respect, and understanding, not fear and shame. Zara's new friend back home. Zara met a new friend, Amira, through homeschooling. Amira was kind and loved to read stories about brave girls. They became fast friends, sharing dreams and secrets. Zara smiled more and more. Each day, her confidence slowly grew. The next day, Serena met with Detective Harris at the local police station. The detective showed her old files and photos. Ms. Karen, he said slowly, has a history of troubling behavior. She was involved in similar incidents at her last school. But no one spoke up. Serena's eyes filled with tears. Why didn't anyone stop her before? That's the problem, the detective replied. Sometimes people ignore the signs, but now with the video, we have proof. School investigation, the quiz. School board began a serious investigation. Ms. Karen was suspended immediately. She refused to apologize. Instead, she tried to blame Zara and her family. But many teachers and students came forward to support Zara. Community support news about Zara's story spread quickly. Local leaders and activists joined the fight. They organized meetings and rallies to demand safer schools. Serena was invited to speak again. This time her voice was stronger. We must protect our children. We must stand against hate and cruelty. The crowd cheered loudly. Zara's new strength at home. Zara looked in the mirror. Her head was still shaved, but she held her chin high. Her mother smiled and hugged her. "You are beautiful no matter what," Zara whispered. "I want to help other kids who are scared." Serena stood at her front door, watching Miss Karen carefully. The teacher held a small box and looked nervous. "I want to apologize for what I did to Zara," Miss Karen said softly. Serena felt anger and confusion mix inside her. "How can you say sorry after hurting my daughter like that?" she asked. Miss Karen looked down. "I made a terrible mistake. I lost my job and my family because of it." She opened the box slowly. Inside was a small photo album filled with pictures of children, some with shaved heads, some smiling. "These are children I have tried to help before," Ms. Karen said quietly. Serena's anger did not disappear, but she listened. A difficult decision that night. Serena talked with Zara. "Do you want to forgive her?" Serena asked gently. Zara thought for a moment and then nodded. "I want her to learn from this," Zara said. Serena decided to meet Ms. Karen again, this time with an open mind. Building a new path, Serena and Ms. Karen agreed to work together to educate teachers and students about respect and kindness. They planned workshops and talks in schools. Zara joined too, telling her story to other kids. A community heals. The school changed its rules to protect all students from bullying and unfair treatment. Ms. Karen's past actions became a lesson, not a secret. Serena and Zara became voices of hope in their community.